In our last section, we discussed a lot about setting up domain controller, Active Directory, help desk machine, and some of the management tools that are required for us to do our job. Now we are going to move on to a staff, user setup, and machines, and the things around it. It is still basically an Active Directory mainly, because we are going to be adding users to Active Directory, but we are saying staff users, so then you have a clear idea who are you working with, where are these users getting set up, but then who are the what are they using, and that's going to be like the machines that are added to a domain controller. So it is still a domain network skills that includes Active Directory. So let's get into a practical lab and basically understand what we were trying to achieve from this lab video. Now you must be asking this question, that why are we doing this session? Now remember, when you go to job descriptions, you're going to come across Active Directory pretty heavily, because this is a very in demand or hot terms or a skill that everybody will be looking at if you are going to be hired as a IT support professional. These titles are mainly used for Windows environment, where they're using Windows machines and solutions for Windows. And you can see I just did a term search and it has 6,000 keywords that came up with almost every title going back to the IT support or help desk positions. Yes, Active Directory can be used mainly in systems administration job descriptions as well. But when we talk about Active Directory training for users at the support level, we're only talking about managing users, their username, password, changing things, adding groups, and then working sort of management, and then troubleshooting as well. So when you know about Active Directory at a good level, this means you will be having a good time with troubleshooting, because you understand how things are connected. And when you understand in IT how things are connected, you have a very good way of troubleshooting things, because you understand everything from a very core level. So this is why you need to take this lecture, this lab, and the practice seriously, because this is a very, very good skill for you to learn for getting a job in interview, doing well in interview, and also doing better on the job, because you're going to be less stressful. So now let's jump into our Sandbox Lab and then start the practice on some demo ticketings and just kind of make scenarios that we can perform some tickets. So let's go ahead and open a Sandbox. Again, a reminder, if you have light membership, then you will only see this Sandbox and Plus membership, and if you have premium membership, you will see a lot of many other labs. You will only use this lab in this course, because we are only using this Sandbox. So we're going to open this Sandbox and we're going to start. If you remember from our last video, we are not going to use anything on the left side. If you are having issues with the boxes right here, then you can go to the support right here and submit a ticket right here if you're having issues. So now that you know how to basically work with this, we're going to turn on all of these devices. Now from our last video, if you remember, we created RSAT tools on this machine, and we kind of did a demo that this is how we can use this Windows 10 machine. But if you remember, these labs are gonna basically reset again once you restart everything from scratch. Then you will not have the RSAT tools right here. So I mentioned that if you have all of this access, you can still use a domain controller that has Active Directory for Active Directory practice. If you are not understanding what I just said, that means you probably missed my last video. So make sure to watch the last videos fully to understand what I'm basically saying. We're not going to use Active Directory training on Windows 10 machine. That is the help desk machine, but it doesn't have RSAT tool, and we don't have to install this all over again and again, because for your lab practice, you want to make things easy. So go to your domain controller, click on domain controller. It is going to open the server in a second. So once your server is up and running, click on start and then click on server manager. And now you have a domain controller with Active Directory already running. Active Directory users and computers. This is where we need to do our training. So let's get started with just basics of Active Directory. even if you would have opened your Windows 10 machine and you install the RSAT tool, and let's say you do that process, you say, look, I don't want to do this server, I want to just do it again. I'm going to go and install the RSAT tool from my previous video, and I'm just going to do it on that. You're going to see the same screen. There's no difference. So the first thing you need to understand that a lot of companies, when you start working with them, it may not be as generic as this. This is when you develop, let's say when you install a domain controller or Active Directory is fresh, there's nothing done. So basically it's going to look like this. This is a default way of how an Active Directory will look. So these are containers, and you can do a lot of research on that, and these are organizational units. There are some limitations on this type of folder. You look at this folder doesn't have any dot. Here it has another icon inside. So this is OU, organizational unit. This is container. So containers have some limitations. OU also have limitations. You can apply certain things on OU level, and certain things can be done on containers. So make sure to go and research more. That is, if you want to become a sysadmin, then you can take our systems administration courses to understand more about Active Directory and how it works. In this training, we're not going to go into Active Directory settings or things like that. We're going to learn how, as a help desk, when you get a job, everything will be already there. You're not going to implement this whole thing. Then if you are going to do that, consider yourself to be a sysadmin. So now everything is there for you. And the first thing that we will learn in Active Directory is basically how to add a user. Very simple ticket. This is going to be an HR. This is going to be a coworker. This is going to be someone in your team that will send you an email or a ticket. That the ticket will say, hey, help desk, I would like to add this user into our company, and this is a title, and I would like you to add. So let me show you one example so you have a little better idea on how a ticket looks like when somebody calls you to add a user in Active Directory. So a real ticket looks like this. People will send you a direct email. Let's say Kimberly, first day in this company is on Monday, April 30. Please set up her computer, Outlook, phone. Her office is 321. Is it okay if I schedule a time for orientation and things like that? So this is an Active Directory ticket, but let's say you didn't have any knowledge about Active Directory and you look at this email, it doesn't say anywhere Active Directory. So how would you know that this is an Active Directory ticket? This is why when you do a training on Active Directory, you automatically know that, because when you work in a company and they say, we do use an Active Directory environment, and let's say you get a ticket like this, then you know that this is a new user. I need to set up the first and last name is that, in front of you, and then you need to also set up a computer for that user. So that this is additional skills that you have learned in part 1 and part 2 of our courses, like how to set up a whole computer from scratch. And then of course there's a Windows skills in there too, like you're setting Outlook in there, applications. But if you look at it, it also says her office is 321. So you also need to know where in Active Directory you need to put this number. So then, because Active Directory is connected to other applications, HR applications, Office 365. So then all of this information gets synced over, because that's how companies have set up most of their environment. It is integrated with Active Directory. So in this next ticket, this is actually coming from a ticketing system, not using an email. So if you know about ticketing system, which you're going to learn from our courses later on, or maybe you have done our short courses, you already know about ticketing system. It's like a system that somebody will put a template, and a template basically is already there. So this person already used a template, and then all they said that to update this director title from Director of Health Core Policy, Coding and Reimbursement. So it says update the department as well, Government Affairs and Public Policy Cluster. So then how do you know that this is an Active Directory email? Even though on the top, the template actually says that. The following information on your profile is pulled directly from Active Directory, which is managed by IS. So this template is telling this user that this is going to be updated in Active Directory. But sometimes they may not know this, right? They may not have templates, and then you will see something like this. So how do you do this type of ticket as well? And then of course, more and more tickets can come like this one. Can we please have a title update for these 3 people? and then you will have people like their machines will be locking out, or their users will be locking out. How do you basically deal with lockouts issues? So there are many other things that you will be dealing in Active Directory, and it's a regular thing. It's a regular process for people that are going to be calling you for different scenarios related to Active Directory. So if you were to go back to the first ticket and we wanted to add some sample, just like that, just how would you create a whole brand new user, adding all these things? So let's just do a practice on that, adding a user, and then we will understand everything visually. So we may have a very basic ticket on adding a staff member, vendor, or whoever that person is that needed to be added to the Active Directory. So we have this basic ticket to start this training. Let's say we have Stacy Smith, first name, last name, and the job title is marketing manager, and the office is 349. Let's say we got this through email or ticketing system. So if you are using for your practice a generic Active Directory, I mean, of course, you will be learning a lot of other things on how to add groups and everything. But for now, let's say you just want to learn how to add a user in Active Directory. So after adding this user will be able to log into any other domain join machine. So to add this user, there are multiple ways you can add this user. Now, when you right click in this little white space inside the user, you can click on new and click on user. Another way to add an Active Directory is to right click on user folder, new, and user. The third way is by clicking on this icon right here, create a new user. It just saves you one click. Now, another way is also to use PowerShell command line. We're not going to touch that right now. We're going to do this later on because those are little advanced skills. First, try to do this on a GUI because this is probably the easy way for you to learn. So if you want to add this user, of course, there are other things that you need to understand. When you click on user, it is going to come up with this window. So the first name and the last name is definitely going to be what you receive from the email. Let's say Stacy Smith. So we're going to type in the first name Stacy and then Smith. Now this is the important part. As you can see, the domain is already there. So for you, it's going to be the same way. Now this is where you need to talk to your manager or your company. How are they using the naming convention? It could be first name, last name. It could be first initial, last name, and different ways people have this set up because some people have thousands of people. Of course, you cannot just use a first name and last name if you have thousands of people because there will be a lot of Stacy Smiths. So you will have to talk to your manager for that, and that will be given to you when you start working in this company. This will be a training that you will receive from them. So S. Smith is the one that we want to use. So I'm going to click on next. Now again, on this screen, you will also talk to your company. How are they using password convention? Is it something that you need to change it for every single person, even if it's a temporary password? Or can we use one temporary password and everybody will be set to reset the password as soon as we add them? So if I add a password right here, in most of the companies, 99.9% of the chances are that you will be checking this and let user know. You will either work with the user directly on the phone or maybe in the office, and then they will change their password to their own whatever they want to put out there. So this is important. This is where they will ask you questions. What is the complexity? How many letters? Some people may get stuck. We will talk about this in our next session when we talk about group policy, because some setup, some things you need to even learn more now when you start working and learning about Active Directory. So this, keep a note that we're going to come back to this. Where do you find this information? We're going to learn that in next section. So here, of course, you will check this and then you will click next. For now, we're not checking this just for this lab purpose. The only thing it's doing is when you log in with this user, let's say on Windows 10 machine, if I log in with that user, it's going to prompt me to change the password immediately. And then you will finish. And that's it. This is how you add an Active Directory account if it's a basic ticket like this. But it's not ended over here. If you look at it, it says the job title and the office number. Now this is where then you need to now learn about how to manage a user. You will right click on the user, then you will go into properties. Now in properties, you can see that there's office information right here. So we can put 349, and this is what I was talking about, that when you start working in Active Directory, sometimes the tickets could be very basic. Like someone will move from one office to another office and they will just create a ticket. Hey, can you add my 349 to 350 because I just moved to a new place. And then the rest could be descriptions and things like that too. And for you to change the title, usually it's in the organization. Basically, you will copy paste whatever the email says that to add this, or type it there, marketing manager, and if there's a manager in this group, maybe they may ask you to assign that. Why is that? Because some application use this and it connects to pull the reports for the manager. So it will be, and then you will click on apply and you will click OK. If there was a department, you will also put the department, and that's it. When you click on that, you have completed this very basic ticket. So this is how you add a user. In next ticket, we will learn more about Active Directory. So the next basic ticket is creating a group. This is another one that you're going to come across in most of the companies. Now do remember that even groups are created ahead of in most of the companies. If they're hiring you as an entry-level professional, you don't just go out there and start creating groups in their Active Directory environments. A lot of it is managed, and even if they have to create a group, it could be a policy, or you have to go through some sort of setup or process, or you may ask people that why do we need this group, or someone will kind of tell you exactly why or how to create a group in their environments, because they want to manage everything pretty nicely and neatly. So again, when you see a ticket like this, for this lab purpose, that's why it's so simple. We're just saying marketing and create a marketing group, but do know that it may not be that simple. This could be a lot of just back and forth. So naming convention is going to be given again to you. They may use some sort of initials in front of groups, or to manage groups in a different way. But for simplicity and to learn the skill, you just need to know how to create a group in Active Directory. This could be a simple interview question. How do you create a group? Just like how do you create a user? So you can do it two ways. You can right click on the user container, and then you can click on groups, or you can go to this white section, new and group, same way. Or here you can click on the icon, click on new group, and then you will see the group option. So we will keep it simple for now. We are going to create a group in a container, which is, remember, that doesn't have a dot on top of it. We'll come back to that later. And if I click on group right here, you have multiple options. So this is important to understand. You should do a little bit of research on Google, in Microsoft documentation. What is an Active Directory security group? What is an Active Directory distribution group? Now, to keep it simple, a lot of people use security groups for more security type of situations where you have to implement, let's say, a folder, and you have to create a group, and then that people in that group can do certain things. So it's more granular, and a lot of people will use security, and that could be any other applications that requires a little bit of more control on that type of groups. Now, distribution group is a basic one. It's mainly used in Exchange for email purposes. It's like a one-way thing. You add a group, and then people will say, hey, add 15 people in this group so we can send this one notification email to everybody in this group. So do a little more research, because it's not that simple. Some people have a lot more explanation and documentation with examples, and this could be an interview question for you as well, even though this kind of gets back to a systems administration, but you still need to know the basics. Now, global, universal, domain, local, you don't need to worry too much about this, because the more you get into this, the global goes into domain level, and the universal is going to go to a kind of multiple domains in a different WAN setup. So if you're going to go into that, then of course you're going to start touching forest, local domains, multiple domains and things like that, you're going to come across a lot of Active Directory things that you don't understand at this point. So for now, just keep it global. And for this video purpose, we're going to keep the security group, and later on in different when we get into more advanced trainings in systems administration, we're going to come back to these and then build Active Directory and do all that sort of stuff on server level. So for now, all you got to do is this information. When you're new to IT, you don't touch this and you ask this. This is more of like you go and ask a coworker, ask your manager, hey, what group should we be using for this, and they will let you know what to do. And you just have to type the name of this group. Let's say this was your task, just to add a group round or in test. So here you go. You added a marketing group and you click OK, and now you have added a group. So you see there are other groups already came with Active Directory, which is something we don't need to go now, but these are all the groups, security groups that comes with Active Directory. And each group has its own access. So if you want to make Stacy Smith a domain administrator of this whole environment, which is a very big access, then you can do that because you have these groups available now. But once you add a group, then of course they will ask you to add someone to that group. So the ticket could be very simple, that you will have a ticket say, hey, can you add Stacy to this group because she just joined our company, or multiple groups, right? So to add a group, to add a user in a group, then you right click on the user, go to properties, and then click on member of. So if you click on member of, you see that Stacy by default is a part of domain user. Everybody will be a part of that group because that's how the domain users log into the machines. But if you have added this group, you click on add, and this is a searching area for Active Directory where you can check names, you can look for objects, you see the groups right there. And if I click on OK, you see marketing is already there now. And if I apply, then now Stacy is a part of marketing and that ticket is over. So this could be only this ticket, meaning that the group was already there, you joined the company, and somebody sent you just this ticket right here. Add Stacy Smith to marketing group. You came here, you did that part. If you are doing this from a group side, so you can go to the group directly, double click on the group, and then click on members. And here you can actually add Stacy by searching for Stacy. She's right here, and you can add it and click apply, and Stacy is added to the group. That's another way. And you can see what the group options are over here. So in this ticket number 3, we will be creating an organizational unit. Now again, you as a help desk or IT support professional in the beginning will never be creating organizational units or container. This is just for you to understand at the very basic level when you see something like this in your companies. For example, when you have an Active Directory, which is a generic Active Directory that gets built immediately when you create your server, these are going to show up. So as we mentioned before, these folders with no icons inside are containers. Now containers is not something that a lot of people use to manage their environments because there are limitations on containers. Containers, you cannot apply group policies. Now of course there are some tricks and things that people will do, but a lot of people avoid using a generic structure like this. And the reason for that is that this is just for old school or old application. They're used to seeing users in users, right? So if they have an application built, a lot of people target this container to do something with it. So in the companies, people don't do this. If they have a users, they will create an organizational unit inside this Active Directory environment. So how do you create an organizational unit? This is just for practice. And if you're asking yourself this question that this is advanced or you don't get it, then I highly recommend go to Google, type Active Directory organizational unit versus container versus organizational unit, and do an extensive research. But again, your learning skills for systems administration. If it gets too annoying, leave it there and stick to your lab over here and learn just adding things and moving things in Active Directory. So to add this organization unit, we're going to click on the domain now, and we're going to click on new, and here you will click on organizational unit. So when you click on it, you will get this option, and here we are going to add this marketing. And again, the naming convention is already done by other people, but for your practice you can just type this, and then boom, you just added this organizational unit now. And then of course here you can add a user, you can add a group. Everything can be managed in this organizational unit. The benefit of that is that next time if we have to deploy something to a whole environment, let's say I have 500 groups and I want to manage it in one organization unit, and I want to apply some policies on top of these 500 groups that may have 5,000 people, then I can just do that from this one area. This is the power of management. And that's why organization unity, when you go to a company, you may see a lot of things like this, where it's going to say staff desktop, staff users, marketing sales, there's going to be tons of groups right here. And then it could be managed even internally, it can be managed more. So you can have an organization unit and then another organization unit. So it's really up to a company how they develop their whole structure. That's something you will not touch. But let's say my job is to, for you got this ticket that our systems administrator is sick today, or maybe this is a ticket. Hey, can you move Stacy Smith and marketing team to the marketing OU organization unit? So the way you can do this by right clicking on it, move, and then you can click here, and now I can move it to that organization unit, and now it's moved. I can do the same thing for the group. I can right click here, move, and then I can click here, and marketing is moved. So now we are managing everything that has to do with marketing is moved. If let's say you have one OU for a lot of users, just users, like you add the users in one OU, you could do that by right click, go to organization unit, staff, and maybe that's our OU. And then I want to make sure that all of my staff members are in one staff OU, because maybe I want to move it. So you can drag and drop it like that. And then if I want to keep all the groups in OU, everything here, if I apply security options because it's a security group, and I then apply a group policy, then a lot of things can be managed that way. So again, the whole purpose of this ticket is to show you how to move things and how OUs are created. But remember that this is not going to be your skill set to do these things. It's going to be already there for you. Now the ticket number 5 could be also related to the whole ticket where you have to add a Stacy account in Active Directory, and then you have to create a whole machine. So in a work group, in a work environment, when you create an account for someone, I'm sure they will also require you to create some kind of machine, laptop, desktop, however they have set up their environment. If it's an Active Directory environment, it's a domain network environment. You learned that in our previous lecture, so please go over that to understand the workgroup versus domain. So here in ticket number 5, Stacy also needs a computer. Now if you look at it, we have a computer already added to this Active Directory, which is plab win10. So if you want to practice Stacy's machine and you want to log in as Stacy, then this is the machine that is already added to Active Directory. If you wish to create and add a new machine in this lab, you can also use plab 101, which is a workgroup machine, and all you have to do is to use your skills learned from the previous courses and lectures. You can go to the system, and in the system you can go to the system information, and then here you will click on change settings, and then click on change and add this machine to the practice labs with the administrator username and password that you have in this lab. So then it will be added to this Active Directory environment. But since Win10 is already added, we don't need to do that. All you have to do is to click on this little key icon, auto log on device is on, and then click on this connect right here. So this way you will test Stacy's machine. So of course in reality you are gonna have a laptop or desktop. Stacy's gonna come that day and she's gonna say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna log in here. This is how I log in, and it was Stacy Smith, and we created the password, and of course this is not done correctly. So for example, in this lab environment, when you use this access, this is a remote access, remote services is being used. So for that, you have to do extra things. But in reality, the way you want to practice is that you're going to go back to this lab and scroll up and then use the console access. I just clicked on here. So this is how a real desktop will look like, and not a remote desktop anymore. This is like you're sitting in front of that machine. So now if Stacy come over here and she's in front of that machine and you want to test that user, let's say S Smith, and then we want to put the password. So now you see Stacy Smith. It automatically detects the Stacy Smith name from Active Directory that you have created, and now it's going to log in as Stacy. Now after this, other things can start, right? Stacy can say, I need a application, I need this, I need that. That is just normal Windows 10 and a company related skills. We're going to go into that later on in different sections, but this is how you work with a machine. When in this lab, you have the capability to you have added Stacy, and then you can come and practice on Stacy's account and how is it going to look like when a real person log into these different type of systems. So then of course Stacy will start working, and the next tickets will come after when Stacy actually starts working, and then Stacy or somebody else who's working in a domain environment is going to come across issues, and that's where you need to still learn about Active Directory more to work with users on Active Directory. So after some time, and let's say you have a lot of users, you're going to get calls on Active Directory, something like this. I forgot my password, or my account is locked out. So for this one, this is going to be, I forgot my password. Let's say this person went on a vacation or something happened. They came back and they try to log into their machine now, and they forgot their password. They tried multiple times, but it's not working. So they pick up their phone and they start calling you. Hey, I need. Now, because your machine have the RSAT tools where you have Active Directory, or if you're using this lab, you're on the server, you're going to open Active Directory and you will find Stacy. Now, if you have 5,000 people, of course you cannot just come here and just look for Stacy by S. You have to use features like searching. So here I'm showing you another skill, how to search a user. So let's say you want to search somebody in an entire directory. You have a very large environment, or you have multiple domains and you want to do a whole directory. Then you will pick the first one. If it's one domain, then you can search Stacy in the whole domain just like that. It's gonna find Stacy. If you right click, you can actually do things from here as well. So if you do it that way, you can do it that way by finding a user. But let's say they're on the call, you will right click on Stacy's profile, and then here you will help Stacy with the resetting password. So this is a skill that everybody will ask in the interview question. Do you know how to reset a password in Active Directory? You can simply say yes. You can go to Active Directory, find a user, right click on the user, click on reset password. And then of course you will be using this option, because you don't want to give Stacy a password and then forget it, and Stacy will never change it, right? So I can come over here and I can give Stacy this password right now, but Stacy must change it at the next logon. So let's see. Didn't meet. Okay, we didn't do it correctly. So now Stacy password is changed. While she is on the phone, I'm gonna say, okay, Stacy, can you log in again? Can you try with the temporary password that I just gave you? So Stacy is gonna come over here. She will put the temporary password, and then she will log in. As soon as she log in, it's gonna say the user must change the password before signing in. Now this is where, again, we're gonna go into next session where we have to learn about the complexity and where this is coming from. But at this point, Stacy will come over here and she will add her password just like that. Now, of course, this is where Stacy can start calling you, because she will put something like this and it will not work. And then there's a history, there are things going on. This is where it takes us to next session where we have to learn about group policy. So once you know about group policy, then you can answer these questions pretty nicely. If you don't, of course, Stacy will keep trying again and again and until she gets something complex, but that's going to be very annoying if you don't know the answers to these questions. So this is something you will learn in our next section where we will talk about group policy. So at this point, Stacy will use a guided password by you, and then she will put a good complex password and she will log into this machine, and that's it. That's going to be our password for next 90 or whatever, how many days you have assigned in this company. So if I put a complex password, there you go. I click OK and we're done. So this ticket is over. You're going to be good with this ticket. Stacy's happy, and that's it. You're going to move on to next. Now the ticket number 7 is something that is going to lead us to do something in group policy, but you're not trying to learn this at this point. You're just trying to understand what's going on. So the first ticket is just resetting the password because they forgot. The second one, they remember their password, but they lock themselves out because maybe they're putting a wrong key and things like that. But to make this work, you need to do this. Go to Tools, go to Group Policy Management. And this is what I'm talking about, that we're not trying to learn this right now. I'm just showing you how things are being managed from this area. So when you go and open the Group Policy Management, this is where a lot of things can be managed. And this is our domain policy. Everything is coming from here. You go to Edit. And when you go to the Edit, we're going to go into Policies, Windows Settings. And we're going to move this and Security Settings. And that's the account policies right here. The password policies are coming from here. And the lockout policies are not defined yet. So we need, for this ticket, we need to enable this. If you want to do the same thing, you can do the same way. You're going to come over here. You're going to double click on the account policy and check mark this. Apply. And this automatically says that after 5 invalid logon attempts, Stacy's account will be locked out. So again, the policy is coming from here. All of these characters needs to be 724, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to get into that right now. This is all group policy training. But if you want to do this ticket, then this is how you do it. So if I go back to Stacy's machine, and I'm going to go ahead and open, because I logged in as Stacy, so the best thing you can do is to restart this machine. We're not doing anything else right now. So restart this, so the group policy is applied. There are commands you can use, but that's going to be set for our next session. So now Stacy is coming back again to work, and basically we're going to come back to this ticket. So right now, when she log into her machine, because in companies those policies are already set, she's going to be normally going into her machine and we'll log in. You're going to come over here, and then we're going to log in again. So at this point, if Stacy wants to log back into her machine, let's say she come over here, she forgot her password, she tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and look, it's locking her out right now. So when this is spinning, it's going to basically say this account is being locked out. And of course, Stacy is going to pick up her phone again and start calling you that my account is locked. Can you help me out to unlock it, because I remember my password. So this is what you are going to see when you try multiple times after 5. The reference account is currently locked out and may not be locked too. So of course, at this point, Stacy is going to call you. Now, do remember, you're not going to be coming over here and resetting her password, because that's not the whole ticket. The ticket is that they do remember it. They want to try it again. So how can you unlock it? You're going to go to Properties, and then you're going to go to Account. And in Account, you see there's this Unlock account. If you check this and then click Apply and click OK, then Stacy can go back and log into that machine, and everything should be okay because you just unlocked that account. And that happens in a lot of companies. People don't want to change their password immediately. What if this person just changed their password 2 days ago and they did all this syncing everywhere, and you don't want to go there and just reset their password, right? So you want to give them their chance to remember their password. If, let's say, Stacy is unable to do it, of course she's going to say, just go ahead and reset. And then you're going to come back, and the ticket will switch to resetting password then. And with that, you can also check this, just making sure that they're not locked out. So you can do this. So one ticket can turn into another ticket immediately. The skill, basically, it can go from Properties to Account. You unlocked it didn't work. They still keep locking themselves out, and then you come back and do the reset password, and that should be taking care of the whole ticket 6 and 7 both. And sometimes people leave company, or for whatever reason you're going to get a call from HR that this is this person's last day, please disable the account in Active Directory so that it can be disabled everywhere in the whole company. So it's very simple. You're going to find Stacy, you'll right click on that user, and you're going to click on disable account. So as soon as you click on disable, it's going to have this little icon, and then Stacy cannot log into this machine. If they're logged in, after that, when you log them out, log back in, it's not going to work because you disabled their account. And that's a very common practice, and a lot of companies, people do that because people leave for whatever reason. You need to come and quickly disable those accounts because you don't want that access to be running in a company active. Now things can go a little more advanced if you're working in a company. I'm going to enable this account. If you're working in a company and they're using Active Directory heavily, you may be taught. Now this is not something that a lot of people expect from a new person, entry-level person, to be having that kind of knowledge. So for example, sometimes you will go to properties and you will work in this area. Sometimes some people use scripts. When somebody log into their profiles in their network, they may tell you to put a script so that runs every time they open their profile. Now that scripting, that path and everything will be given to you. You're not going to be basically doing this by yourself. And sometimes they may ask you to connect a home profile, and everybody will have some sort of profile, home folder, connected to their profile. Now this is not a very common thing in a lot of medium-sized companies. It's maybe something that people have done, but because it kind of creates a lot of network overhead on these profiles. So it really depends. If the company have done it great, then of course they may use it. But there's a lot of different solutions that people come and use it. This is something that's been there for a while, and that just came with Active Directory. And other things you guys will notice that you're going to get a call from changing the last names is another one. So make sure when you change the last name, because people get married and things like that, so you need to make sure that you have a proper understanding, or ask your co-managers or co-worker, if I change this name, the last name, where else do I need to go in my systems to change the last name? Because this is a big thing. You change the last name, these profiles are already created on the machines. This could break a lot of things. So just make sure that you know, if you come over here and you just change this last name, it may not work in your environment because things may not be set up correctly. So this is another advanced area that a lot of people are going to come and change things. Another area that you're going to work on, if it gets more advanced, some people will be basically coming over here. Let me just go here and advanced features. So when you click on this, you see more containers, and things will come up, and that's something that some people do use it, and you may not even have access to this, by the way. But let's say you do have access, you can come over here, and let's say we go to the marketing OU, and you right click on you're going to staff, right click on Stacy's, and go to properties. You see you have more tabs available, and in that case, a lot of time we use this editor, where basically when it comes to changing things advanced way, or you need to change something, you can actually come and edit these values. And that's why I said that it's important for you to understand, because some of it can go back to Exchange, and you may have to add an alias or things like that, and you can come over here and do that sort of things. But again, you're not, as an entry-level person, you will never come over here and you're going to open something like this and just change some kind of value. Of course, you're going to break a lot of things if you do that. So this is just for you to know, if somebody is working in a company and they say, hey, in the attribute editor, can you add an alias? Then if you have some kind of knowledge over here, you came over here, you will remember, okay, this is, and then you can ask them, okay, you know what, which one, because this is something advanced, I don't feel very comfortable doing this. Can you let me know what do I need to change over here, or do you have an example? Then they will let you know, yeah, you need to come over here and do this, and that's it. You just one time do it and you learned it, and that's your skill that you have learned. So another basic task that you may be given is to a lot of moving. We already discussed that. You may be also doing a lot of computer moving, because even though they may have some kind of script set up or a way set up for you to add computers to a computer OUs, or if it's here, they may say, can you move it from here, because we don't want it to be in a container of computers, it has to be somewhere else. So you may have to move these to another OU. For example, I just want to move this OU to marketing OU. And of course, this message is important because if you don't know a lot of how Active Directory works, then just moving things is going to break things as well. So just know that you can ask these questions to your co-managers or co-workers when you move something like that, because there are policies that may break for other people. All right. In some companies, you may not even have access to the Active Directory tools. Now, you must be asking this question, then how do I help people? Now, this is where you can learn something extra now. You can learn different companies have created different products, pretty good products that are well known in the market. And I like to do this practice with you all because you can use one, you can say on your resume that you know about Active Directory now. You can add RSAT tools from previous lectures, and now you can add this external product that is kind of known. These companies are known to IT professionals. So when you say something like this, that shows that you have experience. Even if it's a lab environment in JSS, that shows a lot of experience. So how can we do that? Now we are going to create, the first thing we need to create an account here in Active Directory, just so we can make it a little more real world. So let's say we are going to create an account in this domain controller. So let's go ahead and log into this server Active Directory, and we are going to open Active Directory in Tools. So here I can go to Tools. I am going to go ahead and open Active Directory Users and Computers, and let's add a help desk account right here in Staff. We're going to create a help desk account, and then we're going to give it domain admin rights, because you learn how to create that, right? So let's go into help desk, and that's the username. We're going to keep the generic password. Okay, we created a help desk account. We do want to give this a domain admin rights. So how do you give it domain admin rights or administrative rights? Go to properties, go to member of, and then we're going to add this help desk as a domain admin. So now you see how I added this user to domain admin group, and now we're going to click OK. So in this machine, we can come over here again, and we can log off from Stacy, and we can log in as help desk user. So when we log in as a help desk user, we're going to click on other user, help desk, and we log in with help desk account because it has a domain admin right. So this is a pretty powerful account right now. So let's assume this company is not letting us to use our SAT tools that you have learned before in our previous lecture. And they're saying that you need to use this product that we're using because this company is well known and we use this web product. And to do this practice, you need to do one thing. You need to go and open browser and let's download that tool. And let's see if it's gonna work. I want to configure everything from scratch. So you may see something like this where there's no internet connection, even though it says that you have internet connection, but that's because of the DNS. So we're gonna go ahead and change that by doing this step right here, and we're going to click on change adapter options, right click on Ethernet, go to properties. Here you're going to go to TCP IPv4, and here we are going to basically move this to, let's say 8, 8, 8, and 8, and we're going to say OK, and then basically close the Ethernet after doing the OK, and then refresh your page. It should start working. There you go. So now we need to download something that we need. So the first thing we want to download on this machine is this Google browser. So let's go ahead and do that first. You can do Edge as well, the one that is in front of the screen, but I like to use Google just for this training purpose. So we're going to do Google download, and you may get this message. You just accept that, and then we're going to continue with the installation. So if you see something like that, again, we're going to go ahead and type google.com and download Google Chrome. and maybe I clicked on it wrong before, so let's go ahead and click on download Google. There you go. You should see this basically, and we're gonna go ahead and download Google and run the installation on this machine. So now we get a prompt here. We're going to run that and install the Google Chrome on this machine. Now the reason I am installing new browser, because now we're going to use a web-based application to manage Active Directory, and that's how some companies will already be using Google or something more famous browser like that. So the application that we need to look for is called Manage Engine Active Directory Plus, or AD Manager Plus, sorry. So we're going to do manage, we're going to type Manage Engine AD. So that's the AD Manager Plus. We're going to go ahead and click on that and search for that application. We will click on Agree, and we're going to scroll down and find the right link, because the first links are ads. You can see that here. You see we have an AD Manager coming up right now. So we are going to click on download, and it's going to take us to this page now. So here, accept all the cookies, and we want to download the 64-bit. How do you know if this is a 64-bit machine? You should have learned this in part 1 course that we teach in JSS. So if you click on system and scroll down, there you go, it says 64-bit operating system. So we're going to go ahead and click on the 64-bit version software, and now it's downloading, and let's let this download finish, and then we'll come back to this again. Now this process can take a while, so another suggestion, if you want to remove the time for this lab, this means if you have a web browser open and you left your machine, you can still keep this machine running by coming down and turning this accessibility option on. So if you click on this, you see that 60 minutes will start. If I turn it on, it will stay there. This session will stay, but just remember that when you close your browser and you come back to it, it's not going to stay anymore. You will lose that connection. So leave your browser open if you are doing a long sessions, trainings, and since in this scenario, I think it's important because when you're downloading the practice lab, internet speed is very slow, so you'll have to kind of make sure that this is turned on, and just basically come back later on when everything is downloaded and you can continue the training. Alright, once the application is downloaded, we're going to go ahead and run this application as an administrator. I right click, run as administrator, and we're going to set up this application. Again, in companies, this type of application is set up by administrators, and you will have limited access through a web browser. So even if you don't have RSAT tools or direct access to Active Directory, you will have access to this software through a web browser, and then you will be doing a lot of things. As you can see, it just tells you what to do. It can do a lot of advanced things without you having extensive knowledge through PowerShell. So this is why a lot of people use these type of tools to make things easy for their help desk staffs. So now we're going to go ahead and click yes and click next, and port 8080 is fine. This is the port that we're going to use to access this through the Chrome browser that we have installed. We're going to go ahead and say skip to this registration, click next again, and let this run so we can finish this AD Manager Plus. And again, why are we doing this? Remember, if you're going to apply for positions, then use these names because that matters. We know these applications, we use it heavily in the companies, big companies, and when you start talking about AD Manager Plus and things like that, of course you look cool, and that is experience. You kind of counter that experience on the descriptions, and that's how you counter it. You say, I know these things. Now do know that we're not being sponsored by these products. These are third-party products. The only reason we're using this is because a lot of companies are using it, a lot of IT professionals are using it, just like Active Directory. These type of tools are very common. So when you talk about it, it just puts more value on your resume and your skill. Alright, so once it's done, you're going to uncheck the first one, start the AD Manager. We're going to click on Finish. So what will happen, it is going to open a web browser. As you can see, it just closed, and then it's going to start opening a web browser. Let's see if it's going to use a Chrome or Internet Explorer. If it doesn't use Internet Explorer. So let's see which one is it going to use. We're going to go ahead and cancel that and wait for it. So okay, so it's going to ask you for this little check mark. Go ahead and allow access, and this is the icon of AD Manager Plus. So here it's going to ask you, what do you want to use? So I'm going to check mark always use Chrome, because that's what we want to use. That's why I installed that, because if we try to use the old browser, then these applications usually don't work. Now you see that it's using a web browser, PLab Win10 8080. So in your environment, it's going to probably have a real name, or maybe if they use a DNS or something like that, they may have something like AD Manager or Password Management, or they may just have nothing, just a server name. Of course, you as a help desk will not be installing this. Just make sure that you guys don't do that in a real environment. Don't go there and try to install this whole application, because then of course that is gonna be a red alert for security guys or admins or IT managers, that why did you install an application like this on your machine, because it does go back to the Active Directory and it can do a lot of damage. So this is for you to just practice on your machine, but in reality, a lot of people, just like Active Directory is installed on a server, this will be done on that level by somebody in your environment. So you're going to get the admin and password for the first time. You're going to go ahead and log in with that username and password. And then, of course, you don't want to save that. Here, basically, this is where things will start. So what we're going to do here, basically, you need to configure a domain for it to work. AD Manager Plus is very powerful. It can do Office 365 too. Later on, we will discuss that. But for now, we want to stick to Active Directory. So the first thing it's asking you is to put the domain name and add a domain controller, or you can say no DC is available. You could do a discovery now, but because since you didn't put a domain name, it cannot find anything. So the first thing you would do is to type the domain name just like that. And this domain name is, remember, coming from your Active Directory. If you go to Tools, I just went to Server, Domain Controller. This is where the domain name is right now, right? So you're going to go back to your machine and then do Discovery now. And now it's going to look for practicelabs.com. Now, if you look at it, cannot be discovered. Now, the reason for that is why? Because remember, you changed the IP address. So we're gonna have to go back and put the DNS back in there, because we don't need to download anything else now. So we need to make sure we scroll down in this lab. Let's go ahead and do that, and let's go down a little bit. And here we're going to right click, go to this, and don't forget this option, because if you forget these things, none of these options will work correctly, because that's how this whole system is working. So we're going to go to change adapters, right click over here, go to properties, and then go back to IPv4 and change it back to 192.168.0, and I believe it was 6. If you're not sure, go back to the domain controller, I do ipconfig. Let's go and do that. I'm going back to my domain controller, ipconfig, and this is, oh sorry, it's 1. There you go, that was my first mistake. So we're going to go back and fix this. Go to properties and go to IPv4 and fix this, change it to 1. So now we're back to our domain controller, and if let's say we don't have to restart this, I probably don't have to restart it, but we can do discover again, and there you go. As soon as I added that IP address, plab dc01 is my domain controller right here. It found it because I'm actually using a right ID as well. Like I'm logged in as helpdesk account, which is a domain admin account, and that's gonna let me do all these things. So I'm gonna add this domain, and here it says authentication. So when you click on authentication, basically you can add authentication, or you can try to add here, and it will use your computer login right now that you are already using. So when you see success here, this means that the username that you're logged into this computer is a correct user and has a domain admin rights. So now we have a full Active Directory running in AD Manager Plus. So now we can go back to home, and let's see what we get in home. So in home, when you went there, you see it went out there and it started looking for information in our Active Directory, and boom, things are coming up. We see that 3 computers are there, number of users are over here. Pretty nice way to do things. And then it has some other extra products too. You can go down It tells you how many groups are there. So it's very powerful because a lot of people don't like to just go to these server and open applications. There are old school applications. Now people are using something like this. In most environments, they have a web-based access and everybody can access it. So in some companies, they will be using something like this where you will have just a link access and you log in with your username and password. And once you click on management, this is where you will do the same thing that you did in Active Directory before. But here you're using a web version, which is a little more easy to understand and easy to follow. So you could practice by coming to this application by clicking on click a single user. If you click on a single user, you're going to get the same information. Selected domain is this one. If you would have created a template, then a template, you can install everything from a template as well. So here you see you have first name, last name, the logon, everything is in there. So let's go ahead and do another practice here. The first name is demo. We're going to say demo, my last name. And you see how it's picking up information for me. I'm going to keep it like that, demo Danny. Here, I'm just going to keep everything the same. Display name is going to be this, office. We don't need that. Telephone, let's just put a office, 321, just like that. And everything should be like, if the email was getting created, then of course that's going to be my email. So that's all we have to do for now. We're going to go ahead and click on create account. It's going to probably ask us for more information. So you see user cannot create error setting password. The password does not meet the password. So even if you are doing this application, you're still going to come across things like, let's say if you don't put a password, then it's not going to work. So of course, when I click on create, it's not going further. You need to go to the account right here, and you see you need to put password in here. So here you have a little extra thing going on that you can put a random password. You can type a password over here. If I just put this right here, I'm going to put a password for this user, and just like that, and we're going to move. So that same information is presented, logon script, and some other extra things are available here just for, because it's a GUI, it can create a lot of things in a little different way, even though those things are available, but they have provided over here. So if I go back and try to create an account, now you see the account is successfully created. So how can I verify? Even though I don't have RSAT tool on this machine, I was able to do this. How did that happen? Because this machine was a part of domain controller. So if I come back to domain controller and I basically refresh and go to users, we can see that the demo account is created right here. So this is the powerful tools that I'm talking about when you are working on a web-based system like this. And if we had a local Exchange server, you could also create a full mailbox with this user if it was already added to our domain controller. Now in most companies, they will have some kind of template already created. So you can see there's a little green icon, the green button with a template. So people use this type of templates. So if I go back to management, you can see you can modify single user, you can modify bulk user, you can modify user using template. So try to go in there. Maybe if you guys can learn something more. This is more advanced stuff now. And let's say if a user is locked out, you can unlock a user from here. You can reset their password. If it's just a single management, you can see if, let's say, you type a username. If I just type that demo user and search for it, it's going to find that user. And it's going to say that the account is enabled or locked. You can try to do like unlocking the user. You can click here and unlock that user. So this is how people are using this type of products. Maybe sometimes they may say, can you run a report? And then you can use these reports like password report and maybe password expired users or recent logon failure, or let's say user with password never expired. A lot of people run this report to find out who is in this whole network that have this never expired, because that's not allowed in security systems. So some people will just say, hey, why is this person like this, or they need to change this password, or maybe somebody password is expiring in a day or two and they have to leave country or for vacations, whatever the reason is. There's some automation going on and people get emails on daily basis when they get their password reset is near, let's say 5 days. Every 5th day, 4th day, 3rd day, people are going to get emails, please change your password. Because if they don't do that, they get locked out, and of course it creates more calls for help desk. And this is why this type of products, these type of product third-party products are out there who are basically good for this purpose that people are using it heavily. And that's why when you put these names on your resume, people know that you are a little bit ahead of just basics in AD. Like, you're not just a person who did a home lab, created an Active Directory and added a user. That's it, and reset the password. Now you know a little more than that level. Even that's good, but now you know more, and that adds more to your experience. So of course we cannot go and try to do all these things right here. This is up to you, how much time you want to invest into this and learn more. I would say yes, spend some time, get used to it, because this is what people are doing in their companies. Try to import bulk users and play around with the templates, because if you go to a company and they have something like this, then I think that would be the best scenario for you, and you will be very much in less stress because you know these things. Now lastly, if you want to go beyond this, you want to learn more advanced, then of course you can look for more tools just like AD Manager Plus that can do more than just adding and doing process related work in Active Directory. You can find tools that can do troubleshooting in Active Directory, and that could lead you to downloading some other tools that we don't know yet, or maybe on the internet that's available. So give it a try. It's why you have this sandbox. But of course we will not be able to talk about it or support or even have conversation on it, because we have not touched it, we have never seen it, we cannot talk about it. Even these tools we don't support it. If you remember, Sandbox Lab is not supported by anybody, neither JSS or the Practice Lab support over here. We only support the devices here. We do not support any products inside sandboxes. So if you go into, let's say you want to go a little more advanced, the last thing I would say is just go to Microsoft documentation and type, how do you add users through PowerShell in Active Directory? So PowerShell comes with, the domain controller comes with its own PowerShell module for Active Directory. For Windows machines, when you install RSAT tools, it comes with modules these days as well. Don't get into that kind of things that if it's not working, then just stick to the DC, the domain controller, and then open the PowerShell module like this, and simply go to documentation. For example, if I type add new AD, and if I just type this and put a tab in here, you see I can add a user right there. And if I put a name, let's say I want to put a name in there just like that, and I say Danny Demo 2, and if I give it a name like that, of course you need to put it in quotation if you want to do that. So I'm going to do Danny Demo 2, and if I enter, you see that name is added. That's just to show you a kind of a way how quickly I can add a user without clicking on multiple things. And people, when they want to learn things in an advanced way, people go with PowerShells, and that's where people get more and more experience with this. And you will find out that, okay, if I can do it just by this, I can probably create a whole script, create maybe 1,000 users in Active Directory, whatever it is. I'm just giving numbers out there. So if I type, you see Danny Demo was created by disabled. So next, find out how can I enable it? How can I add a title to it? How can I add a email to it? So by doing that, you will also learn some sort of command line. But of course, that's not our goal from these courses yet, because that's something we want to touch in systems administration. A normal entry level help desk person don't get involved in this kind of stuff. If they do, it's just the company is asking them to do it, and that's great, but that's not required. So that's it for Active Directory training. I hope you liked it, and make sure for JSS members now, you need to submit a project to get a certificate. Let me show you how to do that to get a certificate for this full short course for Active Directory. For JSS members, if you're using our template, of course you're representing that you know Active Directory user management from here, and then you can also put this AD manager now in one of the softwares applications that you can now say that I know about something more, and you can add something in the, if you're a member, you can add something over here in the member section. If you are an intern, you can add something in the intern section, but you are representing these skills to verify it. And by this training, you can come when you finish it. I highly recommend you finish the certification now, so you can add something like this on your resume. So to do that, go to your My Courses and type Active Directory, or just type Active, and you are going to see this Active Directory User Management. You're going to go into this course, and this video will also be available in this course. We're updating this course because it has a lot of older videos, But to do the project, you're going to come down, click on project 80, certificate and badge for 80 project. You're going to click on this. You will watch the video and perform this project and submit it so you can get a certificate from JSS. Thank you so much.